Hey everybody, welcome back to Unpinned Creative. Karen here. Today I am going to be stitching the signatures into my goddess journal, and I'm going to be using a hidden binding for that. I have already made the signatures and I just used vintage writing paper and bits and pieces that were given to me with the cover that I have used. Like this gorgeous postcard, and then vintage writing paper. I was gifted some digitals with the cover as well, and so I've just put all those together into signatures. The center signature is made completely from envelopes, so there are various flips, and I'll make one of those on camera with you at some stage. So that's the centre signature, and then the back signature is just the same bits and pieces with vintage writing paper. Before I get started on the spine, I want to put in my bookmarks. So these two ribbons came with the cover. They were original to the diary, I believe. So I want to keep those and use them. And I have these two machine embroidered pieces that I had done a while ago and haven't used yet, so they go perfectly with this goddess journal. So I'm simply going to attach those to the ends of the ribbon. I will glue, and then I will stitch just at the top on the edge, just to make sure it's really securely held on there. I'm going to put the ribbons in first, and I will attach these bits later on because I don't want them to get in the way while I'm stitching in the binding. So before I do the binding, I need to put the ribbon in because the ribbon is going to go in between the signatures and the cover, and so that's just a matter of gluing it on. So to make it a bit more secure and less likely to be pulled off, I'm going to glue a decent amount of the ribbon, so probably at least a couple of centimeters, because then it will be harder to accidentally pull off if it was just the end of it glued on. So glue on at least a couple of centimeters of length. There we go, easy peasy. So what that means is I can either have them hanging on the outside of the cover, or once the signatures are in, they can go in between some of the pages. Alright, time for the binding. So I am doing a hidden binding, which means I won't be stitching through the cover, so I can pop the cover aside for now, although I'll just show you. I want to do I want to keep the spine fairly soft, so it's quite soft at the moment, and I want to keep it that way. I just like the feel of that. Normally I do a hard spine, so it has quite sharp square edges. Hopefully that makes sense. So but I'm not going to do that today, but I'll show you how to do that if you wanted to. So if I wanted it to be a firmer spine, I would take a piece of card. So this is just two pieces of cereal box that I've glued together, and make sure that it fits easily inside the spine when the book is closed. So we want it to be not quite as wide as the spine itself. Okay, and that will, I might be able to show you. Yes, so that will give you a much kind of squarer, flatter spine if you want to do it that way. And then what I would do is grab the fabric that I'm going to use for binding my signatures to and glue it onto that piece of cardboard, okay, in the center. and then carry on as per how I'm going to do my soft spine now. Hopefully that makes sense. I will do another journal in the future and video it with this firmer hidden spine. But for today, we're going to do a soft spine. So what we want is a piece of fabric, quite sturdy fabric, cotton. I use cotton, and it needs to be as wide as the spine plus a good amount, maybe an inch or 1.5 centimeters or 2 centimeters on either side. So this piece is just wide enough, I would say. Whoops, I've got a couple of different, I picked out a couple of different fabrics because I wasn't sure which one I wanted to use, but I quite like the white. I quite like that too. That's quite nice. And then I have this really pale blue. This is not cotton, this is a synthetic, but it's really firm. So I think that will still work, but I don't like that colour. And then I have some denim, which would also look quite nice. But what I think I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to go with that one, actually. Now that is quite small. Ideally I would want it a wee bit wider, but I think I'll make it work. So I want a piece of fabric just short of the length of the cover. Like so. And that's what my signatures are going to be attached to. So then I'm going to fold it in half. And that is where my middle signature will be stitched. Then I want to check the width of my spine, how much I've got to play with, and I know it's about 2 centimeters. You want to make sure you're definitely within those creases of where your cover folds. So I'm going to say 2 centimeters, and then I want to mark either side of that center line about halfway between the center line and the edge of my spine. So that in this case would be half a centimeter. That's not half a centimeter, you wally. And I'm just going to draw a line so I can see it clearly when I'm stitching, just with a chalk pencil for marking fabric, but you could just use a normal pencil or a pen. Okay, so I know that's about where my signatures are going to go. I'm not going to worry about marking horizontally because I will make the holes in the signatures and then it will be easy enough to push the needle through this fabric because it's a fairly lightweight cotton. Okay, the next thing I need to do is make a template for the holes in my signatures. So I just need a piece of paper. One thing that amazes me as a paper crafter is I can never find a piece of paper when I need one. Even though I have millions of pieces of paper. Finding one is often a mission. Right. So, making a template for the holes for the signatures. So, just take a piece of paper, doesn't matter how wide it is, but you want it to be the same height as your tallest signature. If your signatures are all the same height, then that will be easy. Fold it in half, and then what I want to do is fold it in half the other way, and this gives me the location for my middle hole. I'm going to do 3 holes in these signatures, and then I just fold it in half from the bottom to the center, and then from the top to the center, and I go about 1/3 of the way between that line and the end, and the same this way. So about 1/3 of the way up from that line. It doesn't really matter, you can just do it by eye. It's no big deal as long as you've got 3 holes. They're not too close to the end, but also not too far away. And they are going to get the majority of then all 3 are going to get the majority of the pages in your signature. It's okay if you have 1 or 2 pages that only maybe 2 holes will get. That's no big deal. Alright, so those are the holes for my binding. And then I'm just going to take my signature, find the middle, make sure all your pages are up the right way. I need to make sure that I note which is the top. So that's the top. Make sure all your pages are up the right way and in the position you want them to be in. I like to do a couple of those. Find the middle of your signature. Pop that in with the top that you've marked at the top of your signature. Believe me, it makes a difference, so that's definitely an important step. Grab your awl, and I start with the center signature, and I fold the pages back together as I push the awl through. That makes it easier for the awl to go through this fold of the pages rather than coming out on either side of that fold, which is annoying. Alright, sorry, I just got called away for a minute. Right, and then I just move to either end and do the same thing. Fold the book pages, poke your awl in the spot that you've marked, push it through as you hold the book pages together. So there we go, we have 3 holes. I don't know if you can see them. That's the first signature. Now this signature is quite a bit shorter than the other 2. So, so I just kind of try and get the center hole in around about the center of the page. You could measure it and, you know, do it all precisely, but I'm more of a wing it kind of person. So same thing. I've got 3 holes there in my spine and the last signature. The other thing that lots of people do, and I probably should have mentioned at the start, is if you clip your pages together with a big paper clip or a bulldog clip or something like that on both sides then they are less likely to move while you're doing this. And if you have lots of pages or lots of different size pages, that's a really good idea. I just do things more randomly. Okay, so we have our signatures, the holes punched in our signatures. We have our fabric with the 3 lines marked where my signatures are going to go. And now I need a large-eyed needle. I'm using a blunt needle. It's easier to push through the holes. And then you need thread. Now most people use a waxed cotton or hemp cord, and that's great. There are lots of different things you can use. I use lots and lots of different threads. I've even used ribbon. The one I use the most is this, which is a crochet cotton. I got it from the op shop, of course. And it's vintage, but what you want to make sure is that it's not going to break easily. So just give it a little test. And then I also double it up because it is very thin, but I probably don't need to. So for each signature, we want about 3 times the height. Thereabouts. I always cut a bit extra because it's better to have more than less. I'm going to start at the back with the last signature. So I put my needle through the center hole. This would be much easier if your pages were clipped and hadn't moved. Here we go. And then I'm going to put it through about the center of the line on the right. So this will be going on the back cover of the journal. This will be going on the front cover. So this is the last signature. So it's going on the furthest right line and in about the center. And I just push it through. Okay. Now I want to go through the fabric first in the same place that my bottom hole is, and then through the book pages, sometimes you need to do some wiggling to get the needle through. Okay. You want to keep a fairly decent tail so that you've got something to tie at the end. Then I'm going all the way up to the top. Pull it through. Where's my tail gone? And now I'm just going to pull all of those threads tight. Take the needle back through the center hole. And we want it on the opposite side of the center thread as the tail. There are millions of videos on YouTube about how to bind a journal, and this is just a simple pamphlet stitch binding. So if I am confusing you, please, you know, there are millions of other makers out there who have videos, so I'm sure you'll find one that is much clearer than mine. Right, so with the two tails on either side of the center thread, I'm just going to tie that off with a couple of knots. And trim my ends. You can tie a little bow if you want to and make it all pretty. Okay, so that is the center signature in. So now I will get the other two stitched in. Okay, so we have the three signatures stitched onto the fabric, like so. Now all we do is bring our cover back in, and I'm going to pop a really good amount of glue down the spine, a good strong glue. Get it completely covered. And then I'm going to take my signatures, hold them like that, and plop them right in the center, like so. Try and get them centered, get your fabric flat. Close your book up, have a look, make sure they're in the center where you want them to be. And then you can grab your bone folder and go between the signatures and squish your fabric down. Make sure it's nice and flat and well glued. So just make sure, keep going back if you have to, that that fabric in the center between your signatures is nice and flat and not bunched up. Just keep going back, you'll probably have to do it a few times. Right. I would give that a minute or two to hold. And then once it's got a nice firm hold and you know it's not going to move again, then you can come in and glue down the ends of your fabric. Now you could do this before you do your end plates or end covers, and then glue those on over the top of that edge so you don't see it. But what I usually do is pop a piece of lace down there or ribbon or something like that. Just be aware that if your glue comes through the fabric, because like this glue does, if it's quite a wet glue, you'll likely see it through the fabric, so be aware of that when you're choosing your glue. There are a million different glues out there for all different things, and everyone has a different favourite, so okay, give that a few minutes to dry and you'll have a nice bound journal with a hidden spine. Check and make sure that the centre is still holding nice and firm. There we go. That's it. That's how you bind a book with a hidden binding. So now all I need to do is glue my bookmarks on the end of the ribbons and stitch them, and then that's basically the journal done. It'll just be filling up the pages. There was just one more thing I wanted to do. I found, while I was looking for strips for the binding, I found this cool dragonfly fabric, so I think I'm going to fussy cut this dragonfly and pop him on the corner there. There we go. Pretty little dragonfly. So I'll probably do some more decorating on the inside front cover. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with that yet. I might put a pocket on there or a flip out or something like that, but I will come back and show you what I do, and I'll probably do a bit more decoration here, but I found that dragonfly and I wanted to stick it in before I forgot. So there we go. Alright, thanks so much for joining me today, and I will see you next time.